is Upbeat with beatboxer, musician, speaker, and show host, Parker Kane.
Hey, welcome to Upbeat, and thank you very much for being here and for listening in today or watching. If you're watching this on YouTube or on the website, parkerkane.co, thanks for being here watching. Appreciate you. I've got an interview today. You tuned into an amazing episode. This is an interview with a podcasting legend. All right, a podcasting legend who I personally have been looking up to for over 3 years. He was someone who I was watching and learning from and listening to before even starting this podcast. And he definitely played a role in inspiring me to do this podcast and run it the way that I am. So it's an honor to have him here. His name is Zachary Babcock. Zach is the creator and host of a top 15 Apple podcast called Underdog Empowerment, which you can check out now and listen to at underdogempowerment.com. That's underdogempowerment.com. He's also the co-host of a new podcast called Convicted Life that he does with Travis Richey, and he's the founder of Podcast Powertrain, a podcast marketing agency where he helps alpha entrepreneurs establish dominant brands by building their top-rated podcasts. Now, all of that said, just know he built all this after his life had seemingly completely fallen apart, after he served 5 years in prison. Okay, Zach's story is truly an inspiring one of overcoming obstacles, of starting with a clean slate, starting over, and of taking control of your life and building the life that you want to live. It really is a fascinating and inspiring story, and I cannot wait to break it down for you here on Upbeat. So without further ado, let's get into it. Zach, thank you very much for joining me on Upbeat. Appreciate you.
Dude, Parker, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to jam, dude.
Oh yeah, me too. Well, and I just told you this in kind of our pre-roll here, but just to let the listeners know as well, I've been following Zachary for a long time on social media, on YouTube. He has a lot of value to offer when it comes to podcasting and building businesses and brands. And it's just really exciting to connect with you, man. I really am excited for this one. I know this one's going to be a banger for the Upbeat listeners. But yeah, to start, I always love starting with people's story, and I'm kind of familiar with your story already, because like I said, I've been following. But for those who maybe haven't followed you yet, which by the way, they should go follow him. But for those of you of the listeners who don't know your story, I love starting with just kind of a 3 to 5 minute segment where you kind of give us a breakdown of your upbringing and what your history kind of looks like.
Yeah, man, no doubt. I'll definitely keep it short. We'll do the Cliff Notes version. And then, if you want to unpack any more, that's cool too. So I grew up, my dad died when I was 7 years old, and we grew up in Ferguson, Missouri, and my mom never remarried. So I never had a father figure after 7. And, I was doing stuff just to fit in like any other normal kid, but I was probably doing it more than your average kid. I wanted to fit in so bad that I would do stuff that was outside of my character or against my values just to be accepted. And I didn't have any chief aim in life and made a lot of poor decisions, was in and out of group homes, institutions, juveniles, detention centers throughout my entire adolescence because I never went to school and I smoked weed and got in trouble. And then, by the time I was 19, I went away for on a 7-year sentence. I did 4 years flat on that 7-year sentence. I got out for about 2 years, and then I went back to prison for a DWI and a probation violation just 20 days before my twin sons were born. And that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That I was done after that. And I decided to turn my life around right there in that jail cell. And I ended up doing 8 months, got home, became an entrepreneur, got laughed at for the next 3.5 years, launched the Underdog Empowerment podcast. After that, that thing blew up right away, got ranked day 3 on Apple, had Billie Jean as marketing on the show the following week. And then since then, I've launched a podcast marketing agency a year after starting podcasting, and that's taken off. And now here we are today.
Awesome. Well, that was quite the breakdown. But at the same time, you're probably so used to sharing your story on all these podcasts, which is awesome. I think it's incredible, and it really stands true, like the name Underdog Empowerment, because you went from being in jail and just trying to fit in and do things right to now being what you are. And I'm wondering, as you continue to accomplish things and like unlock your future, do you find that you still kind of stay in that same mindset of being an underdog, or do you feel like people can get out of that, or do you think we always kind of have an underdog mentality?
Bro, I've pondered that question you just asked me and mulled that thing over thousands upon thousands of times. Probably I've really done a lot and asked a lot of people this question. I asked Andy Frisilla this question, like, dude, and my answer is, I feel that we can remain underdogs. I feel like as long as we're striving for something that we've never accomplished before in our lives, we're an underdog. If we're moving towards something that we've never done before and we're reaching new heights, and we're an underdog. And I had a lot of people had discussions where people would joke around like, oh, you can't call yourself underdog no more or whatnot. And I don't agree with that, because what I'm working towards now, the type of level I'm trying to reach now, I'm so far away from that now. I got a lot of work to do, and it's likely that I won't make it to that level in all reality if you look at odds and stuff. But I know in my mind it's going to happen. So yeah, man, to answer your question, I think we can always tap into that underdog mentality.
Definitely, I would agree with that, and I'm glad that we were able to talk about it. As for, I guess, anyone listening later, we're in 2021, and I'm just curious now, what are your thoughts on personal branding and building a business, and if it's too saturated, if it's not saturated? I think that's kind of my opinion is it's not too saturated, but I think that's kind of a stigma that exists where people think they're always underdogs because they literally can't stand out, they can't achieve it, and they don't think it's possible, which is what I love about your messaging, is that it is possible. But I just want to unlock some of your thoughts on that. Now that it's 2021, how important is personal branding and kind of building our own revenue streams?
I think it's really important. I think what's more important though is what I say a lot is to understand what winning means to you. So technically, you don't need a personal brand in order to have a business and be successful. But it does help a lot. And it makes a lot of sense in specific situations, So it really matters down to, what does success look like to you? Because too many people don't do that. And so they end up doing stuff that they don't like to do to impress people that they don't even care about, to get things that they don't even want. And they're doing it because they think, oh, that's what success means. And a lot of entrepreneurs make fun of people that are still working 9-to-5s about this. But the reality is that a whole bunch of entrepreneurs are doing it themselves. They're like, oh, they're growing the business just to grow it, just to talk about how many figures they make. And they're not even doing the stuff that they love in life. They're not spending time with their family. They're not taking care of their health and yada, yada, yada. And so I believe having that self-awareness of what's going to make you happy, what's your purpose in life, what winning looks like to you, and then going out and getting that and gearing up for that. So if that includes personal branding, then hell yeah. And if it doesn't, then no. Sorry, I kind of went down a tangent, maybe in a different direction, but I just felt like it was necessary to hit on that point.
No, I love that. And I really think it's a good point. And it just brought into my mind, like, how can people find that, like truly find that, not just because I think we're kind of conditioned or programmed in a way to think certain things are cool, right? Or we think that we want something, but maybe we don't actually want something. So how does someone really find that? And do you think for you, it was serving time that kind of helped you get to the bottom of what you really wanted?
Man, this is something that never ends, because our wants and especially creative types like myself, and we're always bouncing from one thing to the next. Because, like, I don't know about you, I'm a creative, right? And what I like doing is I like the beginning phases of stuff and building it and designing it and getting it going. But once it's up and running, I tend to lose interest and I get bored with it and I want to go create something new. Just because that's that artist-like qualities that I have and a lot of entrepreneurs have as well. But it's an ongoing process. Like every 90 days, I sync back up and map out the next 90 days. But also while I do those 90-day sync ups, I also revisit the long-term vision and see if everything's still in alignment. And so, I do this. It's an extensive process, but it works. And it works really, really freaking good too, at least for me. But so I get really clear. I do these 90-day things, right? And I start with this journal exercise of, can I have it all? What does all mean to me? And then I just write this stuff down, and then I say, what is having it all as far as mind goes? What is all as far as body goes? What is all as far as soul, relationships, finance, the 5 pillars, right? And I get really clear in each one of those 5 pillars. And then I say, I map it out, and then I'll say, but why is that important? And then it usually goes a surface level deeper. And then I'll say, well, then why is that? And if I can't get 3 levels deep, and I mean, after I get 3 levels deep, if I can't get any deeper, then I think I got it. But if I can keep going, I'll go till I get to that root reason why. And then that's what makes it powerful at that point, because then you have what you want. You identify with that, and now you're becoming that person that you have identified with, and then you're tying the reasons why it's important to become that person and have those things. And then after I do all that, then I make visual representations of everything and slap them on my vision board. And then I visualize every single day and look at that board multiple times. And then I make my daily and weekly goals based off of my 90-day and my vision board. And that's how I go through that process.
Awesome. Well, and for everyone listening, that was like a Cliff Notes version of an entire masterclass. I think definitely rewind it, listen to that part again, take your own notes and implement that. Because I think oftentimes we hear things about setting goals and like getting clear, but then we don't actually do it. Like a lot of people probably just listened to what you said and then are not going to go do that. And so it's just really important to take action on those kinds of things. And it got me thinking, like, again, going back to your story a little bit, when you got out of prison, like, how did you end up doing things like what you just broke down, like writing all these goals and becoming what you are, like, and with podcasting and personal branding, like what led you down this route? Yeah, man.
Great question too. And I could definitely see why you asked that, because you're like, well, dude, you were here, but then how did you get here? I started off in that jail cell making that decision, like, dude, I don't care what it takes. I'm going to be back in my kid's life. I don't know when I'm coming home, but I'm going to get home and I'm not coming back here. I'm going to stay there. And so that started there with that decision. 8 months later, got out. So I'm convicted of doing the right thing now. And I started looking for a job, couldn't find it. And then I got into network marketing almost 2 months after getting out. And that was my first way of getting paid. And through network marketing, I was introduced to personal development and so grateful for that experience and a whole lot of other stuff too. But that's where I started learning this stuff, like goal setting and all this stuff. And then obviously that continued after I left network marketing to build on that tool, to keep adding to the toolbox.
Really, really love that. It's just incredible. One thing that you've said a number of times in your content is that you knew you could bet on yourself. That I really like that. That just makes a lot of sense to me. Like it just rings true. But do you mind like expanding on that? Like, what do you mean truly, like what it means to bet on yourself?
Yeah, dude. For me, I didn't have any other choice. It's like, all right, nobody else is going to give me an opportunity. I'm a convicted felon. Nobody wants to hire me because of decisions I made years ago. All right, so I got to bet on myself. And so in a sense, it was easier for me to do it than most people because that was the only thing I had that I could do. But then there's been times though where I had to really make a decision and bet on myself. And one of those examples, this is an extreme example, but this is before I was in the worst position financially that I've ever been in my life, most financial stress I've ever been in my life. It was right before I broke through. And this is in 2018, at the very end of 2018 in October. I wanted to get in this mastermind because there's this guy that I followed that I interviewed on my podcast, and he was like the real deal. And I had made a bunch of prior investments and mentors before this that flopped. And so like, I knew what I was looking for now at this point through losing out, and I was like, man, I gotta, learn from this guy, because I got to figure out how to make this money online. And so long story short, he had to put out this offer for his mastermind to join is at $2,000 a month. I'm like, okay, I don't have $2,000 a month. We're currently backed up on our bills. Our water was shut off. Credit cards are maxed out. Got 4 kids to feed. I mean, like it was pretty rough. And I'm making $200 to $800 a month. And then my wife is working at the bank, and she was the one that was bringing home the most money. But we didn't have enough to even cover our bills. And I went and got a title loan on my Chrysler Aspen for $4,000. I don't know if you know this or not, but interest rates on title loans are freaking sky high. They're ridiculous. And so I did that just to bet on myself to go into this mastermind. And that's it, to learn these skills. I wasn't guaranteed nothing, just to learn how to select my audience, craft an irresistible offer, and write copy that converts that audience to that offer. And everybody said, oh, it's crazy, stupid. Like, how could you do that? You got kids. Like, that's just dumb, yada, yada, this, that, and the third. But 10 months after making that decision, I had a 6-figure business because I bet on myself, because I burned the boats. There was no other choice. Like, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to make it happen. Or, and that type of mentality, I feel like is what really get things actually done, because you're not half stepping any of it. And you're not playing around. You're not interested. Like, no, this is like almost like a life or death situation. It's like, it's serious. You gotta do stuff. And so it's worked out for me. But at the same time, I know there's going to be a lot of people that hear them be like, oh no, that's stupid. I'd never do that. But you should, if that's your mindset, then don't do that. But if you're going to bet on yourself and you believe in you and you're going to do whatever it takes to make your dreams possible, that type of level of commitment will get you there.
Wow. That was a really powerful story, man. And I've listened to a lot of your episodes and stuff, and I don't know that I've heard that specific kind of story of when your back was really against the wall, Amen. Thanks, man. That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. And I think it's going to relate with more people than we probably even think. It relates with me right now. Like, I'm in a really hard situation in life. It looks good on YouTube, like what we're doing right now, but there's so much behind people's videos and podcast episodes and stuff that we don't get to see. And so even though that was back like 2018, there's still probably so many people, especially after, everything that's gone on in the world, there's probably so many people with their back up against the wall, and it's going to help them and push them to be better and pursue their dreams. And I wanted to ask deeper though about that business though. So that's like 10 months you built a business. Was that largely because of your podcast? Like how did you, I guess, or was the podcast the business, or did you have another business? Yeah.
So, and yes, it was the podcast. So I had the podcast going, and at the time, I wasn't making money. I was making money from affiliate marketing through the podcast, but that was only $200 to $800 a month. And that's not enough to live off of when you got, 4 kids to feed, plus you and your wife. So I had that, and then I joined the mastermind, and then I learned how to write copy, pretty good to get people to pull out their credit cards and make a purchase with you. So I learned that skill, but I didn't have the offer yet. I was like, what can I sell? And I was having a hard time figuring that out. But then I got invited to this mastermind in January of 2019. So this is a little bit after I joined the mastermind at the end of 2018. And it was at Marshall Gillen's, and he asked me to come up and speak. It was a smaller mastermind, like 20 people. And I spoke, and then it was cool. I told my story. He came up to me though after that and was like, "Hey man, can you come up again tomorrow and speak? But but just talk about podcasting?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." And I get up next day. I share people with about podcasting, showed them how to get their podcasts ranked, how to interview high level people, how to do affiliate marketing on your podcast, how to grow your downloads, all this stuff. And people were just lighting up, and they're asking questions and stuff. And I'm like, man, I might have something here. And so I took the skills that I developed from that mastermind that I was in and the skills that I developed from podcasting over a year at the time and combined them together to make an offer to show people how to start a podcast. And I put it out as an offer on Facebook, writing the copy that I had and created an irresistible offer for it. And it just blew up. I put that offer out in March of 2019 and made a little bit over $11,000 that month. And that's not we've done way more in a month now since then. But at the time, $11,000, I was like, oh my God, it's real. I can't, because at that time, I've never even made $2,000 in 1 month, you know what I'm saying, up until that point in my life. So it was like, wow, this is crazy. And, since then we just taken that and just built upon it and built the whole podcast marketing agency since then.
That's so cool. And you're helping a lot of people solve their problems with that too, which is a big step in entrepreneurship and building businesses is what problems can you help them solve. And so, wow, that's incredible, man. Well, here as we kind of wrap up, I have a segment that I do at the end where it's kind of more upbeat and fun, just a few questions. But before we get into that, I just wanted to say too, you're inspiring to people of all kinds of categories. But one that really resonated with me is you grew up without a father in the home. I grew up with a single mom. And so I think we inspire people who grew up that way too. And just for people who struggle with that, I was wondering if you have any advice or anything you'd like to share with that audience.
Yeah, dude, I'm so glad you asked that question because it's something I've never been asked before. And I always like talking about real stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, business problems are challenging and yeah, they're not easy, but in the grand scheme of things, doing the inner work, dealing with traumas that you have and mindset blocks and all that stuff, that's the real work. That's the real hard work that most people run away from. And it's the most impactful too. But yeah, man, I grew up without a father and I'm glad you asked that because I'm actually going into this, I'm doing this spiritual journey as you want to, whatever you want to call it. It's funny too, because up until this year, I've never been into this kind of type of stuff, the woo-woo type stuff, but man, it's real, dude. And anyways, long story short, I'm going and I'm doing this. I got a guide and a shaman and they do this. It's MDMA is what I'm starting with. It's a psychedelic. But you take it not to get high, dude. You do it in a controlled environment for intentional purposes. And I'm doing it purposely to heal traumas and to get rid of, limiting beliefs and wiring that's back there that's not serving me. Because I want to be the most elite version of myself that I could be. And I believe by doing this real hard work, that's the way to unlocking my true potential. And so anyways, long story short, I think I'm pretty confident that I run patterns in my life where I put up these walls and I don't get close to people because I think I'm afraid of losing them because I lost my dad at such a young age. And then right after he died, we got our first dog and then the dog ran away and never came back. And then my mom died, my sister died, my whole immediate family. So I feel like those traumas are limiting me, and that's just the surface, scratching the surface. I believe that there's a lot of stuff that we all got stuff that's going on. And so, yeah, anyways, for the audience, so that doesn't have a dad, everybody's situation is different. But and so I can't speak on people that had a real abusive dad or a bad dad, because my dad wasn't abusive or bad. He was a good dad. He just died when I was 7, and so, this is the last thing I would say. I go on hikes every single week. And when I go on hikes, I take a little hit of weed. It helps me get present in the moment. And I do it for real spiritual reasons and whatnot. But anyways, I was doing that one day, and then just out of nowhere, I just started busting up crying, dude, like a little boy. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm a grown man, dude. I'm crying. And it was because it was the first time I realized this, but it was because I was hurt and wounded from my dad leaving me. And I took it as that he didn't love me and didn't care about me, which isn't true. But that's just how I took it, interpreted it. And so I was sitting there crying like a little baby as a grown man thinking about that. But it all happened so quickly. But in that moment, I was able to forgive him, even though he didn't I was able to not forgive, but like able to let go of that belief or whatever. And immediately just felt like so much lighter, like the stuff was just lifted off my chest. So, I'm still going through this stuff myself, and I don't have like a finite answer, and I don't have like a cookie cutter, one thing fits all for people that don't have dads. But I would highly recommend, getting with people that have a lot of experience in these, dealing with traumas or whatnot, and going to do that work and becoming the better version of yourself that you can be.
Awesome. Really, really love that. Thanks so much for sharing that with us. And with that too, just kind of a last question here. Sorry, I know I was going to go into the whole Upbeat thing, but what are your thoughts on the importance of like implementing your story into what you're pursuing with your businesses and brands and podcasts and things like that? Like, is it important to kind of build your message off of that, or are they something that could be separate?
Yeah, dude. If you're building a personal brand, absolutely. Not everybody is, but if you're building a personal brand, absolutely put your story in it. I mean, dude, even if you're not building a personal brand, you still got to tell some type of story. Like stories is what draws people in. It's what sells things. It's stories that sell the product, not the features and whatever, you know what I mean? And so, and every company's got that story. They got the origin story and all this stuff. But for people building up a personal brand, here's my experience, man. This is the best piece of advice I can give on personal branding. Think of, let's say, the biggest brands in the world, like McDonald's, Apple, Walmart, Amazon, Coca-Cola, you get the point. They can be whatever they need to be to serve their ideal client. They can make up this imaginary customer avatar. Bob is 35, got 2 kids and a wife, and yada, 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 and make up this imaginary avatar, and then they can be that ideal to serve that avatar because they're companies and they can morph into whatever and be whatever they need to be. However, personal branding, you can't just make up some imaginary customer avatar and then try to be the ideal that serves that avatar if that avatar that you just made up doesn't align with who you are as a person. And so that's where a lot of people in the beginning struggle with. I did too. I was trying to be something that I wasn't. I used to wear suits and ties, and I used to act like I was positive all the time. And nothing wrong with suits and ties, but dude, I got a beard that goes down to my belly button, a body full of tattoos, and suits and ties are just not my thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not me. And so when I started getting clear on this, and I stopped trying to act more successful than what I really was, and stopped wearing the suits and ties, and showed people that I had bad days just like everybody else too, and got really clear and understood who I was. And then I started making my message to speak to who I was yesterday or who I was just starting out or anywhere in between that. That's when I started blowing up because now I'm talking to someone that I understand, that I can help because I am that person. And that's the game in personal branding, is to get clear on exactly who you are. Then all of your messaging and everything is always geared towards who you were yesterday or just starting out anywhere in between. And 2 last things to that before I stop. Some people will be like, yeah, but then I'm limiting myself. And no, you're not. You're not. Because look, dude, so you say who is Underdog Empowerment for? I'm going to tell you it's for alpha male entrepreneurs, rough around the edges, who got this crazy big vision that people don't believe it's going to be, that they're going to make it happen, but they don't care because they're alphas and are going to do whatever it takes to level up and win. That's very specific, right? But dude, you know how many alpha female entrepreneurs I have that listen to Underdog Empowerment? You know how many beta males that listen to it that want to become the alpha version of themselves and they're just not there yet, and the podcast helps them get there, you know? So it's plenty of people that don't fit that exact target that are drawn to it, because I'm speaking clearly to one person, one very specific person. And if you do that, then that message is going to hit the money on the perfect person, and it's still going to draw other people that can eventually work up to that. So yeah, don't feel like you're limiting yourself. If your message is for everyone, no one's going to hear it. It doesn't stand out and it doesn't stick. But if it's very drilled down and niche, man, that's the way to go with it.
Wow. Again, another masterclass, guys. That's so awesome. Thanks for sharing that, man. And thanks for being on Upbeat. I appreciate it. I've got this last little thing again. It's called the Upbeat Seat. And it's just a few questions. And then I'm a professional beatboxer, so I'll beatbox your name at the end of it. But nice. Cool. So Zach, what makes you upbeat?
Man, a lot of things make me upbeat, but what's the thing that makes me the most upbeat? Ooh, man. I get upbeat. The thing I look forward to the most every single week is my solo hikes. I go out and hike for about a good 3 to 5 hours every week out in the woods. I get upbeat when that comes around. I get upbeat whenever we get to do stuff with whenever we do an activity with our family. I love doing that. I get upbeat when I'm launching new brands or launching new products or building something, creating something. I get upbeat when we start talking about the Los Angeles Rams. I get upbeat about a lot of stuff.
Awesome. Who is your number one influence or inspiration?
Living or all time?
All time.
My mom, without a doubt. Mom, for sure, without a doubt, number one. Outside of my mom, man, I don't know. I would normally I'd say Andy Frisella probably, but dude, I got to jam with Sean Whalen back in January, and
that guy's a beast.
Yeah, dude,
I love his content.
Yeah, me too, man. I think it's because freedom is such a strong core value of mine. You know, after going through prison and really, appreciating it now, and his shit's all about freedom. I think that's why I'm drawn to him so much.
Awesome. Same here. That's very cool. What music do you listen to stay upbeat and motivated?
Ooh, man. I love music. I like a lot of different music. Right now, I'm stuck on, I got a playlist I made of all 90s music. And 90s music, I mean, you just can't beat it, dude. 80s is good too. So is 70s. And so is the early 2000s, but then it started going to crap.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
What's your favorite word?
Sage.
Sage.
Yeah, it's a joke that me and my friends do that I hang out with. But anytime somebody says something like powerful or like a golden nugget or whatever, we were like sage. That was sage wisdom, sage. It's like saying sage.
Do you have a favorite TV show?
I don't really watch much TV. I don't watch any TV. I watch movies or like a documentary every now and then, but I don't really watch much TV.
Awesome. And then lastly, social media platform, which I'll talk more about in the intros and outros and stuff, but favorite social media and your website.
Podcast is the favorite, but if we got to talk about something that's other than a podcast,
Probably not. Probably Clubhouse. Probably not Clubhouse.
Probably not Clubhouse. It was Clubhouse, and then I just got fed up with it and quit it back in January. But I'd say I got my strongest audience is on Facebook, like the most close-knit audience. But I like Instagram a lot, and I've been focused on growing that. So I'd say Instagram.
Cool. And your website's just underdogempowerment.com, right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Zach, for being on Upbeat. And I guess per usual, I'm going to beatbox us out of here. Beatbox your name.
That's impressive, bro. That's pretty sick, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So there you have it, my interview with Zachary Babcock. And of course, we'd both love to connect with you. You can find me at my website, parkerkane.co, parkerkane.co, and Zach at his website, underdogempowerment.com, underdogempowerment.com. And while you're there, subscribe to Underdog Empowerment. It really is an incredible podcast. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode or got value from this episode, please leave an upbeat review and share it with a friend. Or if you're watching this again on the website or on YouTube, then please leave a comment down below. Let us know what you got from this episode or your favorite part of the episode, a lesson learned from the episode. We really appreciate that feedback. So thank you for doing that. It's always super appreciated. You guys are the best. I'll see you next week.
This is Upbeat with beatboxer, musician, speaker, and show host, Parker Kane. Subscribe at parkerkane.co.